Ehsan Ahmad. Hopefully I'm saying that right. As another brown
Yeah,
guy, I better get it right.
yeah, you're saying it right.
We kind of have the invert, like if I turn my face upside down, we might be the same.
Yeah. I'm growing this out. I'm growing this out till there's a vaccine. That's what I've told people.
Oh, nice. It's like your tournament beard.
Yes.
Love it. And you got a lot of hats back there.
Yeah, I went through a whole hat phase, and then when I was on the road earlier this year and late last year, I would wherever we'd go, I'd buy a hat from like the local sports team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'd go to like we'd be in Philly and we go to the stadium and I get an Eagles hat, you know? So that would be the thing I would do. So pretty much every city that I went to I have a hat. There's a couple I don't, but for the most part I do.
Dope. And how you holding up, man? This whole thing is crazy. It's getting better, now worse, now better than worse. I don't know.
Yeah, man, the problem is like there's no knowing what the future holds, right? So there's almost like you can't make any plans because you don't know 2 months from now what the world is even gonna look like.
Right.
So it's hard, at least in Los Angeles too, stand up is pretty much 100% on hold.
100%.
So, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, why am I even here?
Yeah.
If this is not going to come back for the rest of the year, why not just go home and then save the money on rent and then come back when things are back on again?
Yeah, because it could be a year. Who knows?
Yeah, it could. And that's a long time, especially now that like I had just become a full-time comedian when this hit. So it's like, I don't have a job set up. I don't have,
Yeah.
anything really ready for me.
I thought about it. I thought about going to Canada for a year. Where are you from?
I'm from the Bay Area.
Oh, the Bay. Okay, that's just a hop in the car, pack up your things, your hats, and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I've been mulling over more and more as this goes longer. I thought for a while in June when things were going down, like, okay, we'll be back, and it was just like a 3-month hiatus. But now they're talking about sending the kids back to school, so I was like, oh, this is just gonna get worse.
I know. I got 2 kids, and I just got that news this week, and that's brutal that they're not going to go back to class. Like I did the homeschooling thing with them before, and it was not easy. Like you're just forcing them to sit in front of Zoom for really only 30 minutes a day, but it's a lot. And then they have homework, and it's just not.
How old are they?
5 and 8.
5 and 8. Oh, so that's a tough age to get them to sit down in front of the
Yeah.
computer.
8 is pretty good,
learn.
but like the 5 is like it was preschool online. At a certain point, you're like, this is not, they don't need this. Nothing about like I can teach some cat at home, like CAT, done, like move on.
Right.
Were you thinking about doing something else? Because I would do a little bit of research, before we do the pod, and I Googled Ehsan Ahmad, and there's lots of other Ehsan Ahmads doing other jobs. Do you want to hear about them?
Yes, tell me.
So there's a professor of urology in Johannesburg.
Yeah, maybe.
Chemist.
Man, these are all jobs that my parents would be happy with.
Financial analyst.
Yep.
Data conversion specialist.
Oh, all of these sound so boring.
Geophysics engineer. Or solutions specialist at AT&T Mobile.
I will say this, these are all Ehsan Ahmad type jobs. If you were to point out a guy named Ehsan Ahmad, I'd be like, okay, yeah, these are the jobs that they would do.
Yeah. But I will say you are number 1 of Ehsan Ahmad, so you're the most famous Ehsan Ahmad.
Hey, it's all about little victories.
Yeah, it came up Ehsan Ahmad comedian. So all those other guys who Google themselves, they want to be you, really. So
yeah, that's the end goal, I think, of anybody, to be the top hit on Google when people search your name.
Yeah, I think I'm the only person with my name.
I doubt that.
I can't. There's no other Latif Tayours.
Wow. So you lucked out in the Google game.
In the Google game, yeah. And then you have a podcast called Dangerously Brown.
Actually, the main podcast I do is called Spoil the Beans. So the Dangerous Brown thing I do from time to time, but Spoil the Beans is the one me and my friend Derek Poston.
Oh yeah, I love Derek. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. So we do a podcast. We go 2 a week.
Yeah.
It's all about movies. So he describes a movie to me that I've never seen.
Yeah.
And he just does the whole plot line of the movie. And I've not seen pretty much most movies. So our list is deep.
Because you don't like movies? You just never had time for them?
You know what? I just grew up super sheltered, and then what's it called? My parents never really let me watch that many movies, and then like as I grew up, I was like, okay, I'm just used to not watching movies.
Yeah. What kind of brown
Yeah.
guy are you?
What kind of brown? Bangladeshi.
Bangladesh. Oh, so your parents were pretty strict growing up?
Yeah, they were pretty. Immigrant parents are conservative. And they're a little untrusting
Right.
of sort of the Western world.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were like, we got to control what he intakes.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch G.I. Joe for some reason. That's like where the line stopped. That was too much.
Yeah, that's a very immigrant line where they saw one episode where there was like maybe a little bit of violence, and they're like, oh, this is the most violent show. We can't let them watch it.
Yeah, and wasn't allowed going over to other kids' houses till like last week, and
Oh yeah.
no sleepovers, none, never.
I was allowed sleepovers as long as they were at our house.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there was no sleepovers allowed anywhere else.
It's so weird how it's like because we're Moroccan, so it's like all over. It's just like somehow they all got the brown email saying these are the things you don't do with your kids.
Yeah, yeah, because sleepovers. Yeah, Moroccan. That's North African, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's Middle Eastern, Asian. We all don't let no sleepovers.
No
It's interesting.
sleepovers. Yeah, only in North America. And then you started at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, your comedy career?
Yeah, so I started comedy in San Diego. I was in college at the time, 2013, and then I was sort of caught in the middle of two worlds. Like I have my degree in cognitive neuroscience, so I was on the
Oh,
path to an Ehsan Ahmad job.
yeah, you were.
You know, yeah, and then I decided I liked comedy more, and then it just sort of blossomed from there. Like right after I graduated college, I got the job at La Jolla
Nice.
at the comedy store there. Got to meet all the door guys at Hollywood. That's how I got the job in Hollywood. So
Okay.
From La Jolla, I met everyone in Hollywood, and then um, at the time, the comedy store, because in 2015 had open door guy auditions where they let people sign up, and you
Yeah.
would just audition for door guys. And I had a good set during the audition, and then that mixed in with the fact that everyone already knew who I was,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of made me a shoe in to become a door guy at the store.
Right.
And then I was a door guy in Hollywood for the next 4 years.
Nice. There's no transfer program, like you're, "Hey, I wanna go to the other campus?" You had to kinda restart a
Um,
little bit?
yes and no. So some people got the like, okay, you can transfer,
Yeah.
and then some people from La Jolla, he said no to. So it's like a yes and no. I mean, it does help. That
Yeah,
is for
yeah.
sure. Hmm.
Your hand's been stamped the first time, you just gotta, like, make sure you got the grades to move up.
Yeah, and from a company wide standpoint, it's like they're hiring someone, but they're not adding anyone to the payroll.
Yeah.
Because you're already on the comedy store payroll, so it's kind of a win-win situation for them.
Right. And now it's like the clubs in LA, sometimes I drive by them just to be like, "Oh, yeah, that was fun."
Yeah, it's like how long are they gonna last without having any shows? I mean, the comedy store is. I believe the comedy store owns the land that they're on, so they're kind of in better shape. But I don't know what the other two are like.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like, it's just sad, and then they like, "We're gonna open, we're gonna have chicken wings and beer," and then it's like, "Nope," the next day, shut down, and I get it, it's like you gotta control the virus, but it's hard, and imagine places that don't own the land, like you said, or mom and pop businesses, it's a real hard time. Everything on my block is just turning into UPS stores, so, like, all the mom and pop stores are going out of business, just a shipping center now.
Yeah, it's just a weird time. It's like a weird time to be an artist too, because you're like, damn. Especially the way I see it, it's like I worked so hard to not have a day job that it's like, damn, I'm gonna have to go back to a shitty like, oh man, everyone works at an Amazon shipping center, and that's just
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. That's all we're just becoming like the Matrix version of Amazon. We're just gonna work at shipping centers. And then it's like that Bill Maher had that great joke, like half the US is stuck at home ordering Postmates and the
Hmm.
other half is stuck delivering it.
Yeah,
So like some people are gonna
yeah,
be shipping, some people are gonna be receiving. It's kind of this weird stratification of like how people are dealing with this pandemic?
yeah. I mean, I don't know how this keeps going without like. So the problem with like that as a future is that Americans are too individualistic, I think, to like settle for that as our future. Like, well, everyone works for this one company. Like, it just, I mean, and you see it with both kinds of protests: the protests to open everything up, and the the Black Lives Matter protests and all that sort of stuff. Is like, I think we're just in for some major civil unrest for like a while.
Yeah. Maybe it's like overdue because in a way the iPhone kind of like made the iPhone was like this great equalizer in a way. Like we all had this super powerful thing. We all were equal in that one way, while all this other inequality was surrounding us and getting worse in some ways, you know? And I think without the iPhone, this all would have come way earlier. The protests, this and that. It's just like we all kind of had this little pacifier in our pocket that made us feel like, all right, we're doing okay. We got the 6S or whatever, 10S,
Well,
XR.
I see what you're saying. It's yes and no. Like that pacified us for a little because like okay, I think things were getting bad by the time the iPhone started coming out, but it also like made everything like all these social movements are bigger now because everyone's connected,
Yeah, that's true.
right? So like I went to a couple Black Lives Matter protests, and you find out via Instagram, via that's like that's the reason why everything is so big.
Yeah.
It's the flow of information is hard to control. I think that's what scares the people up top. That's why there's like secret police out in Portland now and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
because like,
that. That
oh
was in
wow,
the
they're afraid of
paper
us.
today. That looked crazy. The guys in army suits.
Hmm.
It's also like you don't know, everything is so polarized, you don't know what to believe, you know? Sometimes I click on things that are like, oh, this looks like a great, interesting story. And it's just like one word in the story is that. The rest of the story is completely different. Like we're just being trained to click on these stupid ads.
Yeah, and then you're also just being trained to look at the headline and keep on moving.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you form your opinions just on headlines and not like actual research.
Yeah. I read the Wall Street Journal because I'm a finance dork, but now they started putting a title at the beginning and like at the end. They're like, here's the title of the article, and at the end they'll be like, in like 5 words, this article was about that. Just because people don't have the attention, it seems, to like read everything anymore.
No, no, the world is. Have you ever been on TikTok?
I have a TikTok, and it's a wormhole of time. You can just be there forever.
Yeah, but that's the world's attention span now. It's just swipe up, 15 seconds, swipe up, swipe
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
swipe up.
That's why I'm surprised Quibi didn't really take off because it's like it seemed like, oh yeah, this is good. They're gonna format it like TikTok for people who have no attention, but it didn't seem to work.
The problem is that they debuted Quibi. When they debuted Quibi, this is what I think happened. They debuted Quibi. They didn't. They started in the middle of the pandemic, or when the pandemic started. Everyone had just lost their job,
Yeah.
and they only released the pay version first. What they should have done is
Ah,
they should have made it free for everyone for the first through 2 3 months.
yeah.
Got that base, and then been like, well, here's a premium service. We'll charge, and then if you don't want the premium service, here's a fuck ton of ads.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that's what they should. Because no one during the pandemic, no one is going to be like, well, I'm going to take a chance and spend this money that I probably might need to be saving.
Right.
Yeah, because they debuted it before the $600 unemployment, before the stimulus checks. So
Right.
people really didn't know if they had any money coming in.
Yeah, and we're already canceling ones like sometimes a show ends on like a service and I'm like, all right, I don't need that till it comes back. And so
Yeah,
to pay right away, yeah, there's your job. You should go work for Quibi, be on their PR team, sort this stuff out.
I
Call
think it's too little,
Katzenberg.
too late for them. I
Is
think
it
it's too little,
is it
too
already
late.
done?
No, I just think now the world sees Quibi as kind of a joke.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
You
Netflix
know,
turned it around. Like they had this big thing where they split into Quickster and Netflix. And then they're like, we're gonna take the DVD part away, call that Quickster, and we're gonna have Netflix. And they like doubled the price or did this big increase, and there was this huge backlash, and they lost stock price down, lost all these customers. So they could figure it out, or everything's like, or they had the hottest show on there that you had to watch.
hmm
But the no laptop thing too is like everyone wants to consume how they want to consume. Some people still want DVDs. So give everyone the option to consume all media in all places. Because otherwise you can't say like, oh, it's only available in this one format. Because some people don't like that format.
right.
The medium's the message.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. Also, I think Quibi's problem is like I still don't know any of their shows really.
Yeah, yeah.
I know they had Punked with Chance the Rapper, which is like I'm not paying to watch a reboot.
Right.
Give me some original content.
Yeah, some new stuff. Well, they were successful in teaching us all that we don't know what Quibi is. I mean, that's that's kind of like amazing.
Yeah, everyone's heard of it, but no one quite gets it.
Yeah. They're gonna do like business schools case studies on this, like what went wrong.
Yeah, because they had all that money, right? It was two former Disney guys.
Katzenberg from Disney, Meg Whitman from eBay. They raised a
Mhm.
ton of money. And these guys are, I mean, he was the head of Disney. He started DreamWorks with Geffen and Spielberg. I mean, Meg Whitman ran eBay and I think tried to run for governor. These are people who know how to get stuff done, but sometimes that's not what it takes. And it was a very top down approach. Like, we're going to show you how it's done. And a lot of
Mhm.
things that happen today, I feel like are bottom up. It's like, hey, it just grows this way. It's like organically happens, or kind of like what you said, get people involved in the community of Quibi and then grow it.
Yeah, people don't trust the top down anymore. Like,
No.
uh, as much as like the people, I think the people at the top, like they're so disconnected from what's happening at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
They think they have a lot of money and they think that's going to connect with people, but there's a genuine dislike for the people at the top right now from both sides. So it's like you got to start with the common people and raise up. That's the best way to create something right now.
Totally. That's why YouTube's so big, and like just people who can create their own content, make sure it's out there, and everyone, the good stuff does find a way to the top somehow. Sometimes it takes a little long, but I do feel like talent and stuff, especially in LA, where it's still like a very much a wild, wild west city. Like most people don't have real jobs. A lot of people,
Right.
are just trying to make it. And usually when you hear this guy, like, oh, he just came out of nowhere, he's been doing it for like at least 6, 8 years.
Right.
He just hasn't become a household name. Like we've all heard of him or we've known of him, and he's just been grinding, grinding, grinding. Very rare is the like, I saw him on the bus stop and now we gave him a deal and now he's huge. Like that's like a 50s myth, I think.
Oh no, that never happened. It's funny to see like JFL new faces, and you see the new faces like, oh, this guy's been doing comedy for 12 years
Yeah, yeah, there
or
you
something
go.
like that.
That's the perfect example. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is what the people think is new is that if you're in the actual game, you're like, oh, okay, I know how much work this guy put into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he deserves this. He or she or they deserve this. And you
Right.
just did JFL Northwest in my hometown, Vancouver.
Yeah, that was great. I did it in a theater. I forgot the theater's
The
name.
Vogue?
Yes,
Okay.
pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a lot of it was, you know what? It was fun to do JFL. I didn't like my set, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had an audition for JFL Montreal. I was at callbacks, and then obviously it got canceled. So I'll never know. I'll never know if I was gonna make it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, next year you'll make it. I have full faith in
Well,
you.
if there is even comedy still next year.
They gotta figure it out by next year. Like, I mean, I think this time next year for sure comedy will be back. I mean, I guess that means they have a vaccine though.
Right. Yeah. I think fall of next year is when things like live concerts and stuff start opening back up.
Yeah. Have you done any outdoor shows?
Um, Outdoor shows, no. I've done one. There was a time in San Diego where the comedy clubs were open
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
maybe 1 or 2 weeks.
Oh
I
yeah,
did
I
one of
think I
the
saw you
shows there.
you were at American, I think, right? I saw a post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
American Comedy Company.
How was that?
That was great. The people are starved for comedy. The audience members who went to that show were some of the best. Like that was one of the best audiences I've ever performed for.
Oh wow.
Because they just wanted to be out and they wanted to laugh. And yeah, at the end of this, like even if the comedy clubs shut down as businesses, there will be a need for stand up. I think there
Yeah.
will be like people
Oh,
be
for
like, okay,
sure.
I want to watch this. Yeah,
Yeah, because people are even tuning into Zoom shows and supporting that way because they want comedy. People, there was no shortage of need of comedy before the pandemic hit. There were indie shows, comedy clubs were packed. Like
hmm
it was a major, major boom.
yeah. And I think at the end of this, a lot of people's entertainment is going to come from podcasts because
Yeah,
podcasts are free,
right.
and a lot of comedians do podcasts. So if you're a comic now, I think you gotta jump. Either gotta jump in that TikTok space
Yeah.
or the podcast space. That's the only way you're gonna survive this.
Yeah. I'm glad I started my pod like almost a year ago now, but even that leading up to that, I've been talking about how like I delayed even a year before that. Like you just kind of drag your feet. And now it's just like just start, just do and get it out there and also learn because you're not going to be the best podcaster or the best TikToker on your first video. You're going to do it and your format's going to be wrong. You're not going to learn how to do this. And even sometimes I've looked at my old videos and I'm like, oh, I used to be very monotone. I'm still pretty monotone, but like used to be very monotone, very this, and you start to learn how to
Mhm.
be a better podcaster and a better producer of your own content.
Yeah, it's definitely a skill that you need time to learn. It's not
Hmm.
something that like, yeah, you aren't gonna, especially now that there's so many podcasts, you're not gonna jump in and like your podcast is gonna become a hit. It's like you got to start slowly,
Yeah, yeah.
slowly building.
Right. And you do see it. Like I have seen steady growth over the last year and you see it build and you're like, oh, you start to learn how to market it better. Like these type of posts do better. I've been trying to do
Hmm.
like A/B testing. So like one week with this guest, I'll be like, I'm gonna promote it on these three things and not these ones. And just see kind of like what the differences are to see like, okay, well,
Yeah.
and then watch the timing, be like if I post on Wednesday versus Friday. And it's not an
Mhm.
exact science because every guest is very different in the demand, but it is helping to learn like, all right, like what the best and the most optimal posting strategies are, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. There's certain for our podcast. I realize like certain times if I post like, so we have hand drawn posters for every single episode,
Oh, nice.
and and or like not hand drawn, should I say? Like for every movie, we have a specific poster that we do with our faces in the main characters' places, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed like, okay, if I post it early in the morning at like 4 in the morning, we'll get a bunch of likes. And then if I post it even at 11 in the morning, I'll get like a fifth of the amount of likes. And so I was like, okay, so now I have to be like, I gotta post at these times, I gotta post at these times, and it's weird how like, Instagram is a game and all that sort of stuff is like you got to figure it out. I'm like I'm not the best at it, but some people just understand the algorithm so well.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Sometimes like I know for me it seems to be between 9 and 11 a.m. is like the most
Hmm.
optimum for Instagram. And then sometimes like 12:30 rolls around and you haven't done it yet and you're like, "I'll just do it." And then it doesn't get the what you want out of it and you're like, "Should I have done that?" And you start to beat yourself up about it and like, "Should I just wait until the next day?" So it's really about just scheduling and alarms, like schedule yourself and just do it. It sucks,
Yeah,
but do it.
it is. It is that is the best way to do it. I've also found if something does super well online, if it's genuine and in the moment.
Yeah.
So if you catch something in the moment, it's better to just post it then than to post it at your regular time because I don't know. Maybe it's not the Instagram, but I think maybe it's not the algorithm, but I think people can feel if it's truly genuine in the moment. People on Instagram can feel it and they'll
Yeah.
like it, and that'll prop it up
Right.
algorithm wise.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. You can't it can't be too contrived. There's
No,
yeah,
yeah,
because everyone wants a window into Ehsan Ahmad or, whoever's posting, right? They wanna see your real life, so to speak. So if you can be
yeah,
organic and authentic as much as possible, but just never after 12 AM.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'll see people post like a good post, but it'll be at like at 2:30 in the morning, and I'll be like, no, what a
Yeah,
waste.
yeah. Or
What
if
a
you have
waste.
if your following is big enough, you can post, I think, whenever you want.
Right, right. But if that's like like I feel like if you're like 100,000 plus,
Yeah.
you could sort of do whatever you want.
100,000 strong, they're with you now, so just do what you need to do, so it's really about kinda massaging the algorithm until you get there, and once you're there, you can kinda have more freedom
Right.
to, I guess, be yourself. Um, and you tour with, Brendan Schaub, right?
Yeah, so I did that for the last year. We were supposed to go like all over the world. We were supposed to go on a Europe tour and all that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. And now everything is just sort of like, in the air.
Yeah.
And right now Brendan, well, he for a while he was on tour with Brian and so Brian Callen, so they're doing that. So it's like I said, the future, I don't quite know what it looks like, but
Mhm.
um the tour I did with Brendan was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
The shows were unbelievable. His crowds are the energy is great, if we live in a world where we can't go on tour again, I'm glad I got to experience, or not can't go on tour for a while. I'm glad I got to experience what I experienced. I experienced some of the best stages in comedy. I did all like the A-list clubs. We did the Wilbur in Boston,
Oh,
so it was
nice.
like I'm glad I got to experience what I experienced.
Yeah, and kind of seeing comedy at like one of the highest levels in terms of draw and audience and everything.
Oh, in terms of like what you want it to be, because it's like
Yeah,
so much of my comedy life has just been fighting in empty rooms
right,
for
right,
attention and
right.
stuff.
Yeah,
And this was sort of like, oh, this is what it's like when they're here for comedy.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It's like instead of like it's a push instead of a pull.
Yeah, it almost felt like I was running with ankle weights the entire time,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden I was in a car. You know, like oh
totally.
wow, I'm moving way faster than I imagined.
Yeah. I was texting or messaging with Brendan Schaub about doing the comedy bunker at one point, and we never
Mhm.
were able to land a date. But I'm bummed he never got to do it, and that because it was such a fun show, and now it's all over. And but who knows? I thought about bringing it back, maybe outside or doing something. But it's just
The bunker outside.
yeah, the outside bunker. But it's just like I don't know how. I need to go to a couple outdoor shows and just see kind of like what it feels like. How, like,
Yeah,
obedient people are too, because I don't want any backlash. I would hate, like, someone to get sick or something. That would be, like, really bad.
yeah, that's the sort of thing about like everything that's going on now. It's like because I would do an outdoor show if they asked, but like it's like I know the risks and I know like I know what's going on. It almost seems like a little unworth it to do it just because like it might just be best to wait.
That's the thing too. It's like, so you do one, you put all this effort, you do one show, and then you're like, "Alright, well, there's no momentum," right? You can't, like, do another
Right.
show the next day or, like, next week. So, yeah, it feels like once it starts opening, like, bring it back into the momentum of things coming back online. But to do I don't know if one-offs right now feel like the right move.
No, yeah, I think the right thing is to just kind of like kind of just you guys. So you have the podcast, so like just keep doing the podcast and just sort of
Yeah.
wait. It's like
Right.
the whole world. Well, not the whole world. The whole world dealt with this way better than us. Our country is kind of in like this weird holding pattern
Yeah.
where we all know it's real. The government acts like whatever's happening isn't happening, which sucks. But so it's like we're all just sort of like, what the fuck are the next couple months going to look like?
Yeah. Stay home, consume food and Netflix and just keep going.
And just yeah, keep trying to figure out. It's hard to figure out your next step when there's no steps to be taken.
Right. Because even I'm sure those guys are super careful, but they posted that they got corona, right? Brian
Yeah,
and
yeah. So
Brendan.
yeah, they went out. Well, and they went out to like, so they went out to Texas, which they were like, I mean, it was only a matter of time in places like that where someone in a comedy club was going to get it because they had full shows, no social distancing. They were like, we're done with this. We're like, so it's like it was only a matter of time. If it wasn't them, it was going to be the next guys. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was just a ticking time bomb.
Oh, I didn't know that they were allowing full shows like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. But even like, you know what a small space the clubs are. If you social distance you're inside and someone has it, I don't know if it's gonna matter. I think everyone's still gonna get it. I'm not a scientist, but that's just my feeling.
It's if someone has it in those spaces, chances are that they're going to spread it are pretty big,
Yeah.
right? It's a comedy club. You're laughing, so you're projecting your spit. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
and as well, especially in places like that, they're not wearing masks.
Right. But Chappelle's special inspired me because it was like, you're like, oh wow, look, he's got a stage outside. He had
Hmm.
pictures of everyone in masks, like the separate apart, like little tables. I was like, oh, it can be done.
Yeah, that's the only way it can be done
Yeah.
if it's outside.
Outside,
I think.
yeah, everyone has to have a mask.
Hmm. Have you done any of the Zoom shows?
I did one. It's fine. You know, I don't feel like it's stand up comedy to me. It's just something else. I had fun because I had friends on there and we were riffing and talking. But
Yeah.
I felt strange being like, so like, what's going on with just going into bits felt weird. And it just feels like it's something else. It's like, it's not necessarily like a one-to-one replacement, but I've seen
Hmm.
some of them. I think Taylor Tomlinson posted about this one where it was like, it looked like a 3D screen where like they're all in
Oh,
front of you and it looked amazing.
the in crowd comedy. That's what that one's called. That one
Oh,
looks amazing.
yeah, that one looks amazing. But um, so I'm not like necessarily pro or against it, but I'm not like, actively pursuing it, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I feel you. I haven't done one yet. I've only been asked to do one, but the longer this goes, the more I'm like, well, maybe I'll give it a shot.
I guess you could do 3 Zoom shows a week and you're working out bits and it's better than nothing. I think everyone's or how sensitive you are to being recorded. I think some people are more sensitive about that than others.
Hmm.
So, I think everyone has a right to choose, and I'm not. I know there's a lot of people bashing on Zoom, and I'm sure I bashed on it before too. But I think everyone has the right to do whatever they want.
I get that. Because it's like if you're a stand up and this is what you truly do, it's like how are you gonna survive this? I will say this: without getting up for the 3 months I did in between May and March and June, and when getting up that one day in June, it's like okay, I still had it. I still have like what it takes, and for me, I've done enough open mics in front of no people that
Yeah,
me practicing my jokes at home to myself was enough for me to get on stage and actually
yeah,
tell them.
right. I never had
You
a
know?
problem with that. Like staying at home and just picking up like the mic I have at home and just walking around and doing it. Like I felt like that really helped.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, that's bad if there's like open mics and stuff available to go to.
Yeah.
But when there's nothing available, that's not a bad option.
Right, or you don't have time. Like sometimes I didn't have time. I'm like, okay, I have a show in an hour. I haven't really sussed this out. Let me just spend 45 minutes like working it out. And then I just would tape myself, play it back. Okay, no, it doesn't feel right. Because sometimes you just need to hear yourself on the playback too, irrespective
Yeah,
of the laughing.
yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
One thing I was gonna ask you. Oh yeah, so with your podcast, the what kind of things have changed during the quarantine to like have you actively been like, all right, so we got to try to monetize this more? Are you just letting it still grow organically? Is it still, do you feel like there's a path to revenue with it or?
Yes, so we're letting it grow organically. So we moved to two a week. Uh and when we went to San Diego, we saw that people came out to the show for us. Like we sold a limited amount of t-shirts a while ago, and people came to the show with Spoil the Beans t-shirts. People were like
Oh, nice.
people were talking to us after the show about the episodes that they liked and the movies that they liked us talking about. So it's like, oh, okay, let's grow organically. And our whole plan is, even during the pandemic, to just record as many episodes as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we're out of it, I think we'll have a big enough fan base so that we can start doing one-nighters around the country.
Nice.
Because there's a lot. We're slowly growing, and we're slowly. So it's like if we keep on doing this for, let's say this goes on for another year,
Mm-hmm.
and we're able to release podcasts 2 weeks for another year, I think that's the plan, to grow it. We're not trying to monetize it yet. We're not trying to have like a Patreon. I mean, we do if there's any advertisers
Yeah.
that like, hey, if there's any advertisers that want to hop on this growing podcast, we'll obviously take them on.
Yeah.
But what we don't want to do is we don't want to do a Patreon, because if you look at the Joe Rogan model, right? Joe Rogan this is the most successful podcast in history for sure,
Right.
right? No Patreon. We want all our content to be free. You let the people have access to the content, especially now when people aren't making money. Let people have access to the content, and so that they like us. And then when we come out of this on the other side, whatever the other side is going to be, people will like us.
Right.
People will be like, oh, wow, these are the guys that gave us free content. Let's see them go do comedy.
Right. Instead of supporting them through the Patreon, let's support them through tickets and t-shirts and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because if you give people an option to support, it's surprising. Like people want to support. Like I have friends who just sometimes even just post their sets with their Venmo and be like, "Hey, if you like to just Venmo me," and they'll get money. People will just random people Venmo to support. It's very inspiring.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, we get that some of our fans, they will be like, hey, thank you, Spoil the Beans, for all the stuff you done. Just give us your Venmo. We're gonna send you some money, and that's worked before.
Yeah. Did you see like what happened when you went from one a week to two a week? Was there like a saturation point? Did it start to ramp up? Like the numbers grow faster when you had twice a week? Like what was that like in the initial weeks you did that?
It just the numbers for us, the numbers go up, but because we have like I said, the podcast is about a specific movie, so it's not like we're talking about current events. So there's a saturation point with like, oh, they're talking about the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Every episode is a vastly different thing.
Right.
There's no saturation of people talking about the movie Radio.
Right. So in a way, the movie is your guest. So you're not as long as people are interested in like the movie guest, you kind of keep going.
Yes.
Yeah, and in a way, it's better because you don't have a guest taking away the spotlight. I mean, I'm not making fun of this podcast. I love doing it with guests, but like I have
Right.
seen like the people who are like more about the personalities on the pod turn that more into more of a draw quicker. Like if it's you and Derek, right? So people are more tuned into you and Derek every week and learning about you guys, and it seems to turn into fans quicker than the interview podcast.
The number one thing that we get is like review that we get is that they like our chemistry.
Yeah.
And that's big. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like even if you're not maybe tuning for the movie, like you'll be like, well, I want to hear these two guys talk about
Yeah.
something.
You kind of become friends with them in a way. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a one-way friendship.
That's what a lot of podcasts are. If you, I saw this like touring with Brendan. People would come up to him like he was their friend because they're so used to they think they know who he is because of all the hours they spend with him.
Yeah. When you people are so open on the podcast too. Like they say things on the podcast that, they've probably never said or like say to their close friends, and it's a close friend conversation in public.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a giant inside joke for everybody.
Yeah, there you go, giant inside joke, exactly. And
Hmm.
it just goes to show that like no one can forecast what people want. Like no one said in 1998, we're gonna want this. We're gonna want
No,
people just talking long form, unedited about their personal stuff, and everyone's gonna listen, and they're gonna do 2 hours a week, sometimes three, and people are gonna listen to it and can't get enough.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's on demand radio,
Yeah,
right? It's
on
like
demand radio, exactly.
people radio was the old form of radio was kind of dying, and then people were like, well, we still like this. We
Right,
still like an audio format to listen to, and that's what the podcast came and took its place.
totally. We usually talk one thing on this pod about goals and like what your comedy goals are for the next year. It's such a
Hmm.
weird year to do it for, but like, what do you want to achieve in this next year?
Um, one to keep growing the pot to keep growing spoil the beans, obviously, and two is just to stay afloat. And like I have worked so long, it's 7 years, which is baby, so still a baby in the comedy game.
Right.
But I'd worked so long, and I'd finally worked my way into being a full time comedian,
Hmm.
and now it all got sort of snatched away, by this pandemic, and it's there's times you get really down about it and you're like, oh damn, I'm gonna have to switch my life up, and so just to stay afloat and just to keep that same belief I had in myself when the world wasn't on fire,
Right.
and just trust myself that at the end of the day I will still be fine when I come through the tunnel. I
Nice.
guess if that's a goal, and
No,
then
it's very,
hopefully,
yeah.
yeah, and then hopefully, be get back on stage at some point soon. But that's not more of a goal because that's not up to me.
Right, right.
That's kind of out of my hands right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to stay afloat and stay positive on all that sort of stuff.
I like it. It's very philosophical and inspirational. Do you feel with so you might have to get a job, you're saying, because of just
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
There's two prongs, there's two theories of approach here. Would you go with like the Jerry Seinfeld approach, which was he purposefully, so he said, got jobs that were terrible to push him to do stand up more? Or would you go with, let's try to at least make my brown parents happy for 9 months and try to get something more, more of a career job?
Oh no, definitely the Seinfeld approach. When I had to have jobs before this, it was all shitty Seinfeld-esque jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that. Definitely that. It's like I don't want to. I think I'm onto something here with the comedy thing, and I
Yeah.
don't want to give it up just because the world is like it's hard. I mean, it was going to be hard regardless. So
Totally.
why? This is just an obstacle. It's not a permanent stop.
Totally. And I feel that since you did make the transition to full time already, it's going to be that much easier to resume. Like I would say it's harder for people who hadn't quite made it full time to pick up the momentum again. At least you've kind of like got to this level before the pandemic started. And
Right.
I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people will stop in all forms of art and be like, you know what? Like I didn't know that like I actually valued these other things more.
Yeah. This is going to really show you what you value and what you want out of your life. You
Yeah.
know. This is gonna be it'll be like I said, it's gonna be a whole new world in like
Yeah,
a few
yeah.
months.
You could go into marketing. You have good slogans like Corona, showing you what you really value in life.
I would I would do something like that if I could do it from work from home. If I didn't have
Yeah.
to like go to an office and work. Like I think slowly but surely the 8 hour workday is gonna die too.
I think that's done. In terms of the
Hmm.
office space, like companies are gonna realize because a lot of it is like just monitoring people, like making sure they're doing the work. But if you trust
Right.
people, which is more beneficial for the worker employer relationship, trust them that they're gonna do the work and let them work from home if they can. It's so I mean, I love it. It's so much better. Like not having to drive. You realize like how much of your life like just gets stuck in this building you don't want to go to.
Yeah, and it's like getting there and like so much of your brain space is devoted to that space. And I think if you're a company, you also realize like, oh, if I don't have to pay rent on an office building,
Yeah.
why would I do that?
Rent, Keurig coffee pods for a whole office can be thousands of dollars a month. Everyone's making their own coffee at home. Like it's there's a lot of cost benefits.
Yeah, yeah. So I like, yeah, I think people. So maybe I could like maybe there'll be an easy work from home job in the future that I'll be able to get.
Yeah.
But you know, I ain't thinking. I'm not at the point yet where I need a job. I've saved enough money over time to be like, all right, I can sort of wait and sort of play it by ear.
Right. And going to the
Mhm.
Bay would be, oh, I see now it's all making sense. You're a San
Yeah,
Francisco fan.
yeah. Oh, huge Niners Giants fan.
Nice. Is that your
Yeah.
favorite sport?
Football, I think, would be my favorite sport. Yeah.
Football?
I used to love baseball, but now baseball, I have so many problems with baseball
Yeah. I love
and like the
baseball.
way that it's run. I hate this new commissioner.
Oh, really?
I hate Manfred. I think he sucks. To call the World Series trophy just a piece of metal is so like do you not understand the whole point of sports? The whole point of sports isn't that like sure it's a piece of metal technically, but like the amount of hard work and dedication people sacrifice give their whole lives to that, and so to be the leader of a company and call it a piece of metal is shows that you don't care. All you care about is money.
Well, everything is just a ball if you break it down. It's a bunch of people chasing a ball or like moving a ball
Right.
around in a box. Like, I mean, if you want to break it down, but I think like I'm not the biggest sports fan, but without sports for so long, I'm like, I really miss it. And I'm hardly a guy who like watches Sports Center, like watches every week, but like I like
Hmm.
being able to check it out here and there. And it's like, it's something that really binds us together as a society. And I went to my first Lakers game earlier this year, and it was such a spectacle. It was so fun. It's so different watching it without like the announcer when you're watching it live.
Hmm.
It's like it's actually you really have to pay attention when you're there in person. There's no one telling you what's happening. It's just almost like watching high school basketball. It was kind of surreal, and like LeBron's there, and they were getting whooped, but
Yeah, and things look so different than they do on like screen too. So it's like
so
you gotta get
different.
used to that.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
sometimes we're so screen trained that I start looking up at the big screen and being like, "Oh," and they're like, "No, no, watch here. You're here in person, you idiot. Watch the people sweat and
yeah.
fall."
Be
And
part of the energy. That's what I miss about going to the sports game. Is like,
yeah,
damn, it's like it's when a stadium is electric. Oh man, there's nothing that can beat that.
yeah. I like watching
Nothing.
baseball, like the battle between the pitcher and the batter, like the new, like you really need to focus to watch baseball. It doesn't seem that way, but like watching
Hmm.
baseball passively, like doesn't work. You got to sit there to lock into what's happening. Otherwise, it's like you might as well just not watch it.
Yeah, it's like a battle. It's like a mind baseball, but the mind game between the batter and pitcher.
Yeah, it's almost like a poker game.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that's a great way to describe that relationship. It's like, okay, last time I pitched a curveball and he swung at it.
Yeah.
So in this situation, he's probably gonna expect a curveball again. So let me go fast, but let me try to bluff him
Yeah.
and see what happens. Yeah.
I became a Yankees fan because when I first went to New York, I'm staying in this like dumpy hotel. I'm getting ready to go out and I have the game on in the corner. And then the Yankees beat the Red Sox. Go outside. The whole city's electric. I'm like, this is the best. And then I went to a game like later in the week and I walk into the stadium. Derek Jeter hits a home run. The place is crazy. I'm like, all right, this team got me. So I've been a Yankee fan ever since.
I get that. Well, one of my favorite I'll never forget is This is back in early 2000s when Bonds was on the Giants.
Yeah.
Uh, Bonds comes up to the plate. He pops it straight up to the catcher, and the catcher is Mike Piazza, who is, Hall of Fame catcher.
Right.
And Piazza drops the ball, and the next pitch, Bonds jacks it into so San Francisco has the bay, so he jacks it into the water.
Yeah.
And then that starts a streak of back-to-back home runs. And that was one of the most electric moments I've ever been a part of. That stadium was on fire.
Yeah, I've watched a game in that stadium. It's such a dope stadium.
It's gorgeous.
I didn't know, like, this is a total Canadian moment, but I didn't know about the LA San Francisco baseball thing, like how bad it is. And I was wearing I went to LA, then San Francisco, and this is when I still lived in Canada, and I had a LA hat, and I wore it to the San Francisco game, and people were giving me like the worst looks. Like they were like, I was like, what's going on? Like they were ready to, like several times people like were ready to fight, and I'm like, I'm in California. It's not close enough. Nope, this is not the place to wear an LA hat.
No, the Dodgers Giants rivalry, that's real. That's very real. That's one of the most heated rivalries in all of sports.
Yeah.
And on top of that, people from San Francisco hate LA more than vice versa, because people from San Francisco were born and raised in California, generally, and San Francisco is the much prettier city. But whenever anyone thinks about, like, anyone outside of California thinks about California, they think about LA.
Right.
So San Francisco has this like sort of little brother mentality towards LA, and LA doesn't give that much of a shit about San Francisco because a lot of people in LA aren't from there.
Right.
So they don't. So it's a very heated, one-sided sort of feeling.
Yeah, like LA does, like more of California culture exists outside of LA, like what it means in California. Like, and it's so different up there. The weather is completely different. It rains a lot. There's redwood trees. I love San Francisco. It's one of my favorite cities.
I'd always describe it in San Francisco, the people are cooler, but in LA, the people are prettier.
Oh.
That's what I'd say. Well, I mean, if you're the hottest person in your town, you should move to LA. I mean, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. You should move to TikTok now. Just open your phone.
I don't know what LA is going to look like after this, but I feel like any sort of big city, this thing sort of crippled.
I think LA is going to thrive through this because, well, first of all, more New Yorkers are moving here every week. And it's a city. It's a city still designed for like seclusion. You're in your car, you're in your place. Like it's kind of the perfect city for Corona, like the perfect big city for Corona. Like New York, you're all on top of each other. You have to be in a building usually with a lobby and a elevator. Here you can kind of have some space, especially if you get outside of like the West Hollywood area, you come in the Valley and stuff. Like you can have space.
Yeah, the Valley is nice. The Valley is nice because you can have like friends over. They can park easily.
Yeah. So but this has been great, man. I really appreciate you doing the pod. I think we covered a lot of insightful stuff. You were very open with like your experiences during the Corona and touring, and your podcast sounds great. I'm gonna subscribe right now after this. So
yeah, subscribe. Spoil the beans, everybody. Spoil the beans.
Where do people find you on Instagram and socials and stuff?
All my social is Ehsan J Ahmad. That's EHSAN JAHMAD.
Ehsan J Ahmad. Follow him. Listen to the pod, and I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, me too. Later.
Later.